Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the SIO monthly webinar. Thank you for participating with us today. This webinar will be recorded and posted to the SIO YouTube channel for your reference. If you have any questions for the presenters, please send them through the Q&A box at any time located in your toolbar. The presenter will answer all questions at the end of the presentation, but you can also use the chat box to contact our organizer directly if you have any technical difficulties. Moderating today's webinar is Eleanor M. Walker, MD. Dr. Walker is a senior staff physician and director of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice at Henry Ford Cancer Institute in Detroit, Michigan, and division director of the breast services in the Department of Radiation Oncology and medical director of HFHS Center for Integrative Medicine. Her clinical interests include breast, prostate, radiosurgery, and cancer incidence and treatment in minority populations. Her special research interests include breast cancer and integrative therapies. Dr. Walker serves on the Board of Trustees for the Society of Integrative Oncology and as co-chair of the Health Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Task Force. Thank you for being with us today, Dr. Walker.
Thank you so much, Morgan. This is wonderful. Thank you again for having me back. I have the pleasure of moderating today's exciting session. But first, I want to give you a little bit of background about this week and talk a little bit about National Black Family Cancer Awareness Week. This is an initiative that started in 2021, which coincided with the 50th anniversary of the National Cancer Act and the signing of the Presidential Executive Order advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. And the order was by engagement with members of underserved communities in carrying out these orders, communities that have been historically underrepresented in the federal government and underserved by or subject to discrimination in federal policies and programs. The head of each agency shall evaluate opportunities consistent with applicable law and increase coordination, communication, engagement, and community-based organizations and civil rights organizations. So today, I have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Melvin Mann, who is the world's longest surviving Gleevec survivor. So for those of you who aren't sure what Gleevec is, it's a drug that was found several years ago that was used to treat leukemias, lymphomas, myelomas, and Mel was like first one out there getting it, and who is a survivor and who for the past 27 years has advocated for inclusion and equity in clinical trials. He's hosted bone marrow drives and partnered with cancer researchers. Mr. Mann is a patient advocate and consultant to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's Myeloma Link program, which raises blood cancer awareness in African American community, and is a member of the SIO, Communications and Patient Advocate Committee, and on the Health Equity Belonging Task Force with me. Mel, here you go. I leave it up to you.
Thank you so much for having me this year. And as you said, we have three objectives that we would like to cover today. And one of them being the history of the African drum, which includes a part of Black history, and also talking about integrative oncology and its importance in the healing of many different types of patients. And also I want to include the FDA's goal, which is to make sure that the treatments that we have are safe and effective. So at this time, I'm going to show a couple of slides here that I have. And let me see. Let me just go back here so I can share the screen. Okay, share screen. Okay, PowerPoint. Okay. So, and the topic today is healing and community building through African drumming. And what we're going to do first is we're going to talk about the history of the African drum, how the drum is designed, the uses and functions, and then also the drum as it has made its way over to America. It's actually all around the world. And then we're going to move into the second part, which talks about drum as healing, how it helps in our program, our plan, as a integrative part of our healing, and also not just our healing, but healing in the community. It has so many different functions. And then we're going to move into a little like demonstrational lesson on the djembe, which is one of the African drums. And this again is part of the National Black Family Cancer Awareness Week, the second year project of the FDA. So most of the African American history is not written down. It's passed down orally, and which is like a lot of the history of indigenous tribes and indigenous people, and even just European history a lot of times is passed down that way, but especially in African history. And one of the principal people that is tasked with passing it down is the griot. And the griot is a person that passes down the history, and the history is passed down through poetry, through genealogies, and history of the government, political, religious. All those things are passed down through the griot. And it's kind of like a call and response. This person that has that duty, and he goes. It's usually he until recently, but he goes from place to place and recites the history, and the people reply back. So it's kind of like a call and response type of history, and it's a lot of times people say that it's better than just reading your history from a book, because the call and response ingrains the history, makes you part of experiencing the history. And you can even see that traced a lot of times, even today, through the Black church, when you have the call and response type of spiritual fellowshipping. Now, looking at the drum, and we're going to talk about the djembe drum. And there are many different types of African drums, but the one we're going to talk about today is the djembe. And the D is silent, as you see here. It's pronounced djembe, and it's the most commonly used drum in Africa. Now, there are plenty of other drums, but this is the most commonly used drum. And it started in Mali back around, like I said, the 13th century. And there's a lot of myths concerning how it started. And it's has spread all through the world. And the drum is many times, it's often accompanied by dance, and the dances have different meanings, and just as each drum rhythm has different meanings. And a really professional drummer is called a djembe fola, and that drummer knows about 300 different rhythms and is very experienced with the rhythms. Now, yeah, a common person can also be called that, but the professional drummer is referred to as a djembe fola, and that's been traditionally reserved for men until the past, say, 50 years, where women have become more prominently involved in being a djembe fola. And it's very uncommon to see a woman in that role. Now, looking at the design of the djembe, It is designed like a tree, kind of symbolizing the family tree, and it's made out of wood. As you see, the core here, the shell, and it's usually made out of one piece of wood, and the top, the part on the right hand of the screen, is usually made out of the goat skin or cowhide, and that's placed over the top of the shell, and it's attached by the ropes. And those ropes, they pull down and make it real tight, and that's how the sound is tuned. And after playing for a while, the ropes have to be adjusted. It's like playing on a guitar. After you play the guitar for a while, you have to tune the different strings. And the actual djembe, the part that you really are looking at is the shell, and the top, the skin is mainly like the guitar strings. It has to be replaced after a while. And there are different types of djembes. You can have the natural ones that are made out of wood, or you can have more of these synthetic or the ones made out of different materials that are manufactured. And the same with the top, which would be synthetic also. And it depends on your purpose and how, if it's going to be exposed to the elements, what type of drum you would want to get. Okay, so now let's look at the uses and functions of the drum. The drum is used in family celebrations. It has been throughout history, and it's used for birth, funerals, marriages, circumcisions, and rites of passage. And in fact, I just saw a ceremony on YouTube where there's a circumcision ceremony where the boys were at a certain age, probably about, I looked around 10 or 12, and they had just finished up with a circumcision ceremony, and the people in the town, they were playing the drums, and it was a big ceremony. Even today, you'll see people at weddings incorporating the djembe into their ceremony. It also can be used to signal. It has in the past, as far as because when you hit the drum, when you hit it back in the past, the sound could travel up to 3 to 6 miles, and there's different sizes of the top of the drum. So you can have like 16-inch top or 12-inch top or different sizes, and based upon the material, it could travel. It was like the old version of the telephone, the old version of Facebook. You could send a message. It was faster than walking. It was also used to signal for different events, and the drum has often been used in wars. For example, even looking at our country, looking at the United States, it was used in the American Revolution to signal the rural folks that there was probably going to be an offense, and that they needed to get into the defense. And there's certain things that signals and taps that communicate certain things, and then eventually the drum was replaced by the bugle, the horn. And of course, when you hear the horn in the military, that means certain things. Like in the morning, it means reveille, get up. At 5 p.m., it means the flag will be lowered. And when you hear it at night, it's taps. So when you hear the bugle, it's at 11, or it means to go to sleep. And more symbolically, it means that the soldier is going to sleep forever. He's been laid to rest. It also has been used in religious, spiritual events, like when you see the drum being played. A lot of times you see even in different countries, that the drummer and the people, sometimes they go into somewhat of a trance. The music takes them there, and they have certain dances that they do, and certain dances are appropriate to certain events that you wouldn't see one dance performed at a religious ceremony. You wouldn't see that at a different ceremony. And it's also used to tell stories. And a lot of these drum beats and rhythms are unique to that particular village. And it's also used for healing. And that part we're going to talk about as we go on. Now, the drum in America, um, how did the drum get over here to this part of the globe? So it came over as part of the Middle Passage, and the enslaved had no possessions left, but the ship captains they had the drum with them, and they used it to make the enslaved exercise, and so that they would be they would be able to be sold when they got over to America. And you've probably seen the different movies like let's see, it's Steven Spielberg's Amistad, also Roots. I'll tell you in the Roots where the slaves were came up to the top surface, and oftentimes they communicated messages during that time. And I think there might have been a rebellion at one time through the messages that the ship personnel, the ship staff did not understand. And once you got over here to this country, there were like the drum was still used by the enslaved. And what they did was there was a big rebellion called, it was several rebellions, but one of the most famous ones is the Stonewall Rebellion, where the Spanish government offered the enslaved they offered them freedom if they would come to Florida. And around St. Augustine, there was a big Spanish settlement fort down there. And if they would come down there and then probably, I think it was like they had to serve a little time in the military, and then they would offer them freedom. So in 1739, a enslaved African by the name of Jimmy, who had it was noted that he probably was a soldier in Africa before he was enslaved in America. And he and a group of 20 other, most likely military folks, enslaved Africans, they staged a rebellion, and they started marching towards Florida, and they were beating the drum as they got closer, and people, the enslaved who understood could hear what was going on and would join, and the force got bigger. And that was the first rebellion. The rebellion was crushed, and as a result of that, the Negro Act of 1740 was passed. And as part of that, learning to read was outlawed for the enslaved. Gathering in groups was also outlawed. Also, any enslaved person could be checked for papers once they by any white person. And also the drum was outlawed, and the drum was actually classified as a weapon. In spite of this, the drum and the music, the beat still continued, because the enslaved found other ways to continue the rhythm. Pick up any type of material and still keep the beat. And that beat has influenced all of African, all of different types of music: the blues, jazz, rock and roll, Caribbean music, calypso, reggae, pop R&B all the way up into the present day. And the same thing with the different types of dance. It's influenced like swing and you name the type of dance, the different Lindy Hops and the dances of the 40s, 50s, even up till the African influence, even in classical dance. So it's had a very influential impact on dance and music. And over the years, it's the influence of the drum has really reached diverse populations. Here we have a Juneteenth at the top in the left-hand corner celebration in New Orleans. And on the right-hand side, we have these little kids. They probably about 5 years old with their miniature djembes. And they're just, they got the beat down and they're enjoying themselves. And then here we have a wedding that this couple has incorporated the djembe into their ceremony. Now, there are certain healing benefits of the djembe, and that's where we're going to transition to, because we've talked about the history and it's part of Juneteenth, and of course that was just a few days ago, but the whole week is the African American Awareness Week. And so what's so special about the djembe? And as I stated, the different African griots and djembe, all the masters, they incorporated this into a form of healing. And studies have shown these different things here. It makes you happy. You hear that drum. It's like it's like the heartbeat, boom, 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 boom. And there has been studies that shows that it helps with lowering, well, actually increasing the T cells, which are used in your immune system. In fact, I first heard that, if you look over here in this picture here, this is a local hospital here. It's a pretty big hospital system, and here in Atlanta, and actually here in Georgia, because it spreads out throughout Georgia, and it's the Piedmont Hospital System. It's a article, and it talks about the drumming class, and you see these folks playing the djembe, and this class is led by a guy by the name of Peter Marino, and he's down here in the bottom, and I actually that's where I actually started going to the taking up the djembe about 5 years ago, and it's all free. It's for cancer patients. It's at the cancer wellness centers at each of these hospitals, and he has the way of teaching people how to play the djembe within 1 hour. He's called the 1 hour drummer because he can get folks to learn the djembe in 1 hour, and he has been on Broadway and different places. And okay, so looking here at the list here, we see that the djembe keeps you in the present moment, and that's part of healing. If you look at yoga, if you look at meditation, all those integrative therapies keep you in the present. So it's mind, body healing. But however, at the same time, it allows you to transcend out of where you're at. And one of the studies shows that it works with people who have addictions. So one gentleman in one of the studies was looking for a natural way to get to a natural, I guess, a natural high. It's kind of like running, like runners get a natural high because there's certain endorphins that they release. So all that works with this with the process, and also you can release these negative emotions because you're beating something. It's not the punching bag, but you're beaten. So it gets a lot of tension and stress out. Okay, so I've made a lot of claims here, and you're probably saying these are claims, but there's no proof. And of course, you, you have to have some proof. If you look at just the past and during COVID, a lot of claims were made. Try this vitamin C, try this zinc, drink this, inject that, all those things without any proof. So for me to make these claims that the djembe is actually a instrument of healing, there has to be some proof. And the only way you can really prove that in a medical sense and scientific sense is through what's known as a clinical trial. And I was on several clinical trials. However, these type of clinical trials are slightly different, but they have the same general format as far as proving that there is a efficacy to the playing of the djembe. And if not, it would just be anecdotal, okay? And the difference is one is based on science and the other is based on just hearsay, casual observation, like some of the things that were said during our present pandemic. You do this, it's going to work, or you do that. But none of it's based on science. So let's look at a couple of historical clinical trials. One of those clinical trials is the first one that's ever noted was in the book of Daniel in the Bible, where Daniel said, "Hey, I will eat this food, but I will not eat the king's food." And basically, it was kind of like a plant-based diet. And after a certain period of time, the people that ate that diet were compared against the people who didn't eat that diet. And the group that ate the diet looked a lot better and had improved in wisdom and all kinds of things. So that was you had two different groups. And then the first official clinical trial was with James Lynn back in 1747. And back in the 1700s, scurvy was a big killer of soldiers, and he compared 6 groups of different types of treatment, like some with vinegar, some with something else, and then a group of 2 with oranges and citrus type of fruit. And the ones that ate the fruit, they recovered from the scurvy. The ones that ate the fruit, because vitamin C was involved in that. And we just recently had a celebration of his discovery there, and it was in 20 May 1747 that first clinical trial happened. So when you're looking at drumming, or if you're looking at a clinical trial, you have to look at, are there going to be any adverse effects? And there are adverse effects. You can play too hard, you can play too long, you can hurt yourself. Just like there's been a lot of people who they take up spinning, and they develop something called rhabdomyolysis, which when the muscle breaks down because they're overdoing it, and they're looking like, hey, this stuff is easy, and they just do it too long. So that's one thing you have to be careful about when you're enjoying something so much that you go at it in a progressive manner. This article here shows that these 2 drummers, they were drumming for like 6 to 8 hours, and they drummed so long that they went into renal failure. They recovered from it, but that's just they were overdoing it. It was a hot day. They weren't drinking enough water, and the kidneys began to shut down. So just some things to look at, and you have to look at your posture when you play, and those things are important. Okay, so if you look at clinicaltrials.gov, you will find many different types of clinical trials on the djembe. They're actually going on. And here, there are some here. Let's see, there's one on, say, for example, Parkinson's disease. And it's shown that the djembe can help with Parkinson's disease because there's a thing that happens with Parkinson where people freeze up. They know what to do. They're trying to tell the body what to do, but it just doesn't. The body just doesn't respond. But oftentimes, when after they have been exposed to the djembe and that beat, then if they put the earphones on, they can unfreeze with the movement, and that has been shown. There's been clinical trials with looks like let's see, but for example, like I said before, addiction. There's been clinical trials with on cancer patients that the T cells increase. Take a sample of the blood, and they can see changes in the blood. And these trials are very controlled. They have groups that they have the sample control group. They have the group that doesn't receive anything, and made of the similar types of patients. And so they're comparing apples against apples, and then they can see that there has been a significant change in some of the places that it's too small to see there, but some of the places that are doing these type of trials. Duke has done a number of drumming clinical trials, and they've got a bunch of great research. And for these trials, they bring in professional drummers who are very schooled in the drumming technique and the djembe technique, and then they break them into the groups. And they, I think several of these trials that lasted they would do them in periods of 8 to 10 weeks at a time, and then the people keep diaries and they get the feedback that way. So they're very scientific, and the controls are very strict, and the protocol is written up in advance. So you can't change the protocol, or you can't change anything in the middle of the study, but you have to follow what your scientific hypothesis is, which is, does a djembe work for this particular type of disease? And it's been shown in a number of different types of diseases to be effective. Another study, a popular study, was done over in the UK, and they also used professional music students, so they can keep it consistent with the type of training that these students received, that the patients received. And that study was about anxiety, depression, and social resilience. And it's also been tried with veterans for PTSD, and certain things that you have to look at when you have different different groups is that, for example, with veterans, you have to take into consideration loud noises because they may be, loud noises may mean something else. They've heard some loud noises in war, so they gradually increase the sound, and so each group has certain exclusion and exclusion material as far as who is involved in the studies. Now, you don't have to actually play the djembe. You can just hear the music. And it's been shown that just by hearing the music, that can improve your healing, or help you. In this group in the middle here, these ladies here, they're actually at a rehab facility, and some of them are playing, but just the joy and the community and the fellowship and that is happening is a plus. And then you have this gentleman on the right who's visiting in the hospital. Music therapy has been proven to be very effective in hospitals. You have the folks come by with a guitar. Djembe is very popular in hospital settings. At the bottom here, you have a group of nurses and doctors who, being in a medical environment can be stressful at times. But even doctors and nurses have to relieve a little stress. So here they're having a little jam session with the djembe. Now there's something called a drum circle that is very popular around the world. And what happens is all you have to do is have a drum. You don't have to have a drum. You can just show up and you just beat your drum. You play the drum. There's no leader. There's no body who is there gatekeeping this in. Well, you played an extra note or you didn't do this, and it's for all ages. And the goal is just to show up and for community. And it's not for performance. It's not for anything but the fellowship in the community, and that's brought many different communities around the world together. And the djembe and drumming has become so popular that it's been used in the workplace, schools, communities, also, like shown here. There's the seminars here. You have a professional come in. He'll play some notes. The audience will learn those notes very quickly and repeat them. And they will be broken down into groups. And one half of the place will play this side, these notes, and another will play this rhythm, and then put the rhythms together, and you can see how they will work together as a team. And it's like very popular. There's a guy down here, the doctor here, Dr. Ram Bagat. He has a program called Drums No Guns. And what happened was about 20 years ago, his brother was killed in a gun incident. And he came up with the idea that he would bring drums to the community and replace the drums, replace the guns and the violence with the drums as the healing process. And he's has spread throughout the country. I think he started in Philadelphia, but it's all over the country now. And he also now incorporates yoga and meditation and other healing therapies. Some resources that I think are good. Here, the African Drumming book talks about all the different types of drumming, all the different types of drums, because I know there's not just drums, African drums, but not just the djembe. You have the drums from like the conga drum, the bongo drum, the Ekin drum, the drums from the Middle East, the drums of the Native Americans, different drums. But history of drumming, which he takes it back to like 3,000 or 4,000 BC, when the first excavations of signs that drumming happened. He goes all the way back there. Another thing that I think is I recommend was watching the movie The Visitor. And this is about this economics professor who his wife died, and she was a classical piano player, pianist. And he tries to reconnect with her spirit by taking up the piano. And he finds the lessons very hard to do. And he also owns his home. He's up in Vermont, but he owns his home in New York City. And he goes down to New York City to for a break, and he finds these people who are squatting in the apartment, and they're from Syria or somewhere, but they have this djembe drum, and he becomes fascinated with that drum, and he starts learning how to play. He's actually going to drum circles in Central Park, and it's a really good movie. It's on Amazon Prime, so that's your homework, to go watch that movie, The Visitor. Here is a book by Peter Marino, the gentleman I talked about before, the one-hour drummer who has a way of teaching many folks how to play. And I recommend that because it's very easy to learn. Okay, so in conclusion, the djembe has many health benefits, both for the individual and the community. Here, I'm at the one of the local senior centers. Sometimes on a couple of times on during Black History Month, they asked me to come to play, to give a little history about the drum, and also to just get everyone involved. And one of the ways at the end that I get people involved is here in the middle. I pick a line dance. A lot of seniors are into line dancing, and so I pick a line dance, like say the Cupid Slide, one that a lot of people know, and then I do the drum to it, and then I do the dance and move through the dance, and it's just like I said, dancing also goes along with the drumming oftentimes. Okay. And this is me outside the Piedmont Hospital with some of the drums. Okay, so at this time, I am going to talk about some of the basics of the djembe drumming, such as how to hit the drum. There's 3 basic strokes. I'm going to talk about some of the rhythms and give you a little short demonstration. Okay, so stop share. Okay. Okay, so this is a djembe drum. Oops. Okay, I'm gonna lower down this so you can see the top of it. Let's see, maybe set it up like this. Okay. And you can see my hands right here. Okay. So there are 3 basic strokes, and the first stroke is the bass stroke. And by the way, this drum is hollow. The djembe is hollow. That's where the sound comes from. So when you sit it down, you don't sit it down flat. You have to tilt it and hold it between your legs. Okay, that's the sound. That's the bass sound. If you put it flat on the ground, the sound's not going to come out. So the sound has to be tilted. Okay, so you take off all your jewelry because you don't want to mess up the top or wear out the skin of the drum. So first stroke is the bass drum, is in the middle of the drum. That's the bass. That's the deepest one. Then what we have, the second stroke is called the open stroke, and that's where the knuckles here hit the drum right about there. Right? See, there's a difference. And then the highs of the notes is going to be the slap, and that's where your fingers are more opened. It's like, that's the highs. Okay. And your thumbs are kind of out like this, because if you hit your thumb, it could, depending on who you are, that could be painful. So you have three hits. You have the bass, open, slap. Okay. So let's go through a couple of rhythms. I'll just play the rhythms, and then you can copy these at home if you want to. I'll slow them down and explain a couple of them. Okay. so there are several ways that you can play, and as far as knowing the music, you can go to the basic 4-note, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, or you can play it the way the one our drummer Peter plays, is that he gives you a sentence or a phrase, like one of them is called "Look and Listen," like look and listen, look and listen, look and listen. And then by the way you mix up the tones, it can change it from an African beat to a salsa beat to a European beat, just however you hit it. Or he could give you another phrase like January, February, March, April, and anyone can pick that up, and then folks will copy that, and you can have this group playing that, and then this group playing that, and then over time you pick up more ways to play. For example, I'm gonna do the January, February, March, April, so you can see that. January, February, March, April, January, February, March, January, February, January, February. Okay, so it's all muscle memory. We're used to walking, but we're not used to this movement here. So it just takes time playing. And if you're playing in a professional group, you're probably gonna also want to do 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. A lot of the Motown beats kind of like that. It's like Marvin Gaye used a lot of drumming in his music, especially songs such as What's Going On and Inner City Blues. He uses that's how it kind of starts off, and keeps that beat pretty much throughout the whole song. It changes, because the song's not gonna be the same all the way through, but that'd be kind of boring. But those type of beats, there's like pop beats, and there's salsa beats, and then there's other beats, and there's a ton of videos on YouTube, and I call it YouTube University on the djembe. So I would just say, just as far as getting a djembe, they're not expensive. You can get one for $120, and as you go up in price, you will get better ones. But you could start off on anything. You could start off on some folks in the class. They started when they went home. They turned over the bar stool, and they just beat on the bar stool, which is better because you don't want, after a while your family's gonna tell you to cut that out, but that's the essence of what I wanted to get across during this short period of time, just to talk about the history of the drum, and also to show the healing benefits of the drum, and also show that there is efficacy in the use of the djembe drum. So at this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Walker.
Mel, thank you so much. That was wonderful. That you gave a lot of information, a lot of things that you don't even realize how, I mean, they say music, calms the savage beast, but part of music is that basic drum beat.
Yes.
That's your heart, you feel it. There were certain rhythms that you played that I was feeling immediately, even in just demonstrating things. And I'm glad you were able to answer one of the questions. It wasn't in the Q&A as we asked, but it was in the chat about using other things to play those beats. And really sometimes whatever you have around the house, you can feel those beats.
Yes.
And so I'm going to look and see if there are any questions in the Q&A that people have again, because definitely music is a healer. I know as a radiation oncologist, when our patients are getting their treatment or even to do their planning for their treatment, we make sure that there's music available for those who wish to have music because it calms you. And I know it definitely calms me.
Yes. In fact, the drum beat is really the pulse. It's the pulse
Right.
of the music. Yeah, that's what people keep tuned to. And
Absolutely.
right, right. And as far as using anything else, one lady, she from the class, she used the oatmeal box. She turned it.
Ah,
Yeah, because you just got to get that rhythm.
interesting sound.
Right, yeah. You may not make the sound, but you're getting the rhythm and the pace down. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. A way to practice. Yes.
Yeah. And then even, you know, as you talked about the different cultures across the world, the different dances that are available, you feel that beat. And even I think this in Brazil, what do they
Yes.
call that dance that they use to break up people fighting as opposed to fighting? They
Yeah.
jujutsu or something like that.
Yeah.
They
In
did
fact,
that dance.
I had it on my slide, and I will have to. Is it,
I forget the name of it,
well,
but
yeah,
it's using the African drum rhythm to help people who were having disagreements. And it's used actually as part
yeah.
of martial arts now, I think,
Right,
right?
right. And in fact, the way it happened was, it was when when the enslaved came out to dance and practice, they were able to do that in front of, in the presence of everyone, under the disguise that it was a dance, but really it was a martial art, martial art movements. And today it is the only martial art that is actually played to music.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating.
Yes. And yeah, I had that. Yeah.
But in that case, helping people to stop disagreeing and helping them to learn how to approach each other and help, you know, dissipate the issues by just doing that. And I guess to me, that African beat, that drum that's in your body that just spreads throughout helps. So
Right.
I'm going to go into the Q&A.
Sure.
And so Judy Gasha asked, said, awesome. Will there be access to a replay? And the answer is yes.
That's a good question, Judy.
Anybody else have something that they'd like to ask Mel? Because I feel like I've been taking over the whole conversation, but I love music and I love drum beats.
Yes.
Okay, I think somebody else is coming in. Oh, someone in the chat asked, what was the name of the movie again, Mel?
The Visitor. The Visitor. And also the good thing about that is that it shows how the drum can bring different communities together. Because his is this old eccentric white college professor, economics professor, and he's interacting with this young black and Middle Eastern couple, and he's taking up the djembe, and there's no judgment. They're not saying, hey, because when he was taking up the piano, he couldn't learn that. It was like it was just too hard, and he found that he's just going nowhere. But the djembe, they were very gentle with him, and they brought him in, and so there's no judgment with the djembe. And that's one good thing about the djembe. It's a peace symbol.
Okay, do
Yeah.
we have any other questions, anyone? Because we're getting close to our closing time, and I know everybody usually thinks of something at the last minute. So I wanted to give you that 5-minute warning.
Here's one thing about the drum is that the drum, started as one drum, and then drum sets evolved around that. So somebody started playing the drum, and you said that like 3 people do what the drum set did, because you had to, but then you start using your foot to hit the bass, and then you can use the other foot for the cymbals, but it brings all those sounds together, and so that all that is part of how it all began with one drum.
That's just beautiful. Somebody made the comment that our nation could really use this right now. I agree.
Yes,
We
right,
really could.
right. And there's been global drum circles, and I think one happened during the pandemic, which is like really cool.
That's wonderful. Yeah, because this is something you could do virtually together, isn't it?
Well, it's a little hard because we tried to do it with our drum circle, and the sounds, there's too much feedback. It's really hard.
Okay.
On Zoom. So,
but it's something you could do outside with the group.
Yeah. We still met at parks from time to time. So it's perfect. In fact, that's how you connect with nature. The djembe connects you with nature because it's mainly an outside instrument. Also, it's mainly used. All those pictures you saw, I think 99% of those were outdoors.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful. Anybody else? Any questions? Everybody's commenting, what a fantastic presentation, Mel, which I absolutely agree. And we just want to thank you for the education on the overall benefits of drumming, on our health, and in all communities.
Well,
those are some of the comments that are in the chat. I'm going to check the Q&A one more time to make sure. But I want to just thank you for participating today, everyone. And thank you, Mel. This was just so wonderful. And as a reminder, the webinar recording will be posted to the SIO YouTube channel next week. So be sure to follow us on social media to stay up to date with the latest news from SIO. And I would tell everybody, go out and take a drumming class. It's so much fun. Come on, we can all do it. And Mel, you take us out with the drum. Absolutely.